Israel Adesanya does not deserve an immediate rematch, and here's why.
It's as simple as he got absolutely mollywopped. Sean Strickland shut everybody up, including my dumbass, and he did what no one expected him to do. Did he have a chance to win? Absolutely. But nobody expected him to win the way in which he did. When Israel Adesanya dropped and spun around like a hula hoop, and Sean Strickland hit him with about 20,000 left hands, in which I thought the referee was going to stop it, I'm pretty sure we all knew that was the beginning of the end of the Israel Adesanya dynasty. He did what, in my eyes, looked like what Rory McDonald did to Tyron Woodley, and that was use your jab, 1-2, 1-2. Both Israel Adesanya and Tyron Woodley are extreme counter fighters. They fight behind the black line, and they wait for someone to make a big, huge move in order for them to explode and use it in their favor. But Sean Strickland and Rory McDonald didn't give those two a chance to do either. They stuck the jab in their face. Sean didn't have to mix in the takedowns. Rory did, though, and that's what won Rory the fight. But Sean just did his bread and butter and did what he knew best, and that was just simply box. Hardly any kicks were thrown by Sean, and it was truly, truly impressive to see because he literally fought a boxing fight. He used a teep kick here and there, but all in all, just his pressure. He used the pressure on Israel Adesanya, and Israel Adesanya didn't know how to handle it. The best striker in the middleweight division, the most accurate striker in the UFC, only landed 22 significant head strikes on Sean Strickland. Now, albeit he is the least hit fighter in the UFC, but I'm not saying Izzy's a bum or anything, but that's just absolutely mind-boggling.
Bulletproof, baby. Can't touch this. No.
This fight wasn't even close. And you know how they put the X poll up for people to weigh in on their opinions of the fight? Well, I don't know when Justin Gaethje will fight again, but whenever he fights, I'm going to take everything he says with a grain of salt because I don't know what he's watching. I don't even know if he's truthful with himself anymore, because if he thought it was 3-1 or 2-2 going in to round 5, something's truly wrong, because Israel Adesanya didn't win 1 second of that fight. That fight wasn't even close. So for someone to say that Israel won 2, even 1 round, is just being generous and don't want to kick Israel while he's down.
Champion of the world, that is fucking crazy. There's 1 round where Izzy might have won. Might have, but I don't think he did.
Now what Sean Strickland did was the epitome of the American dream. Went into hostile territory, not only win but dominated in very devastating fashion. Took back what he worked his ass off for. And in the end, you can't help but to be happy and but praise Sean Strickland for the incredible performance he put on. Now, there's this narrative out there that Dana White and Daniel Cormier have been saying is that Israel Adesanya looked off. He looked slow, that he even underestimated Sean Strickland.
Israel looked like he was in slow motion. He looked like he couldn't get off. He looked like he was really stiff tonight. He looked very slow.
Israel fought 11 times in the last 4 years. All of them title fights. That was the exact same Israel Adesanya I have seen in each and every single one of those fights that he's been in. And then when it was time for the rubber to meet the road and Israel and the entire stadium knew he needed to finish to retain his title, what did he do? He fought the exact same way that he did in round 1 in round 5, which was just stay on the outside, try and pick Sean apart with nothing but leg kicks and these telegraphic jabs. Did absolutely nothing when he knew he had to get a finish. And that's how he always fights, and people seem to not realize that. Now, with Israel getting fucked up the way that he got fucked up, Dana White obviously wants a rematch, because with Sean Strickland as a champion, it's not the best case scenario when you're working for the Mouse House.
Traditionally, we see dominant champions get an immediate rematch, right? But Israel just had one of those with the Pereira fights. So do you kind of, I know this is a Tuesday question, but do you sort of think, well, let's just book it again because Israel looked so off? Or do you just sort of see how the division plays out and leave Israel on the side for a moment?
No, I think you do the rematch, absolutely. I mean, the rematch is interesting.
But what Dana White is failing to realize is that we've already been there and done that. Israel Adesanya just got his belt back 5 months ago when he defeated Alex Pereira in viral fashion. I'm pretty sure not even the most diehard Izzy fans are wanting to see a rematch against Sean Strickland, because we don't want it. The division has been so stagnant for the past 4 years, and albeit that's Not taking away anything from Israel Adesanya, he's been that dominant. But that dominance has caused the division to be so logjammed with him winning and lapping the division. People want something new. I made a video saying how it was bad for Israel Adesanya to be in the division, to be a champion in the division, because it would just bring up these old same matchups that we've already seen before. Now with Sean Strickland as your champion, we will see all those great new exciting matchups that we're all wanting to see. It would have been different if Israel Adesanya was winning the entire fight and got clipped with a Hail Mary overhand right, or got clipped with a Hail Mary head kick like Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. That would probably warrant an immediate rematch. Even if Israel Adesanya had a few small moments in the fight, maybe I could see the UFC considering a rematch. The big question is, what do you do with Israel, right? I mean, he's fought 11 times past 4 years, like I mentioned earlier. Do you think he needs a little bit of a break? If so, let me know in the comment section. But nonetheless, there is a lot of exciting matchups out there in the middleweight division. The number one matchup I think that should happen, say Israel gets some time off, would be him fighting Dricus du Plessis. Now I know that fight was supposed to happen in UFC 293 this past Saturday, but Dricus is still healing from his injury that he suffered in the Robert Whittaker fight. What the UFC could do, and what they do occasionally, like they do with Conor McGregor fights or like they did with Covington and Masvidal, is they can make the Israel Adesanya Dricus du Plessis fight a non-title fight, main event, pay-per-view card. Whether the UFC goes to Africa or not, it'll sell and it'll get back to notoriety to Israel Adesanya. Not only that, it'll be his first non-title fight in 4 years. It'll help get his beak wet, still be 5 rounds. It'll still be a big fight, and that will sell like it would have sold this past Saturday. Now, with that being said, the most important fight in the middleweight division happens next month in Abu Dhabi between Paulo Costa and Khamzat Chimaev. That is the true definition of a number one contender fight. If one of those men goes out there and puts a stamp on their victory, they will easily leapfrog Dricus du Plessis for a shot at the title. I predict Khamzat's gonna win. Let me know who you got winning that fight. But let's say Khamzat goes out there, taps out Paulo Costa, or just grounds and pounds him into the Abu Dhabi sand. Khamzat will definitely get the title shot, and I feel like he could defeat Sean Strickland rather easily. I know Sean Strickland's wrestling is rather good. We haven't really seen it inside the octagon, but when you compare Sean Strickland's wrestling to Khamzat Chimaev, it's literally night and day. So I think Khamzat will be your next champion within the next 6 to 9 months. So he'll be the champ. Let's say Dricus and Adesanya have their fight, and who's not to say that Dricus doesn't defeat Adesanya? I feel like if he was his opponent this past weekend, I feel like Dricus would be your new middleweight champion right now, mainly because Dricus is such a unique opponent for Israel Adesanya. His style is so funky, it's unlike anything we've ever seen in the octagon before, and Michael Bisping had the same opinion in which I did. If Dricus du Plessis was there that night, if he took that fight against Israel Adesanya, he would have beaten that version of Izzy as well. Not taking away from Sean and not kicking Izzy while he's down, I'm just saying that wasn't a good showing from Izzy. Call it what you will, call it getting a little bit old, maybe starting to get on the decline, call it the work schedule is too much, too many fights. Let's just say Israel loses to Dricus du Plessis if they were to make that matchup down the road. Even if he were to win, Khamzat Chimaev still your champ. I'm pretty sure, I would bet my bottom dollar, Khamzat Chimaev would take Israel Adesanya down before you could think, blink, or fart, and choke him out before you can sneeze. And at that point, that'll be Israel Adesanya's 4th or 5th shot at a world title, and by that time people will be off the Izzy hype train for good, and Israel Adesanya may have to look in the mirror and see what's next, because at that point he would be at least 1-4, 1-5 in his past 6 fights. Also, I didn't like the way that Israel acted after his loss. When he lost to Alex Pereira the first time in the octagon, he spoke to the media after. I think it was because he was dominating the entire fight and got caught in the very last round, and that way he knew what he had to do, so he wasn't feeling that bad about himself. But in this fight, he got truly dominated. He didn't want to do an octagon interview. He only spoke to the media for about 10 seconds, which I felt was super unnecessary and super weird and was just awkward. But nonetheless, I feel like he just didn't want to face the music. When Conor McGregor loses, he speaks to the media. When Jorge Masvidal loses, he speaks to the media. When Colby Covington loses, he speaks to the media. The main stars, whenever they lose, they speak to the media. Israel Adesanya, this was very reminiscent to when Ronda Rousey lost both of her fights to Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes, where she ducked the media for an entire year. I'm not saying Israel's going to duck the media for an entire year, but I feel like you deserve a little bit more. The audience deserves a little bit more of an explanation when you lose in that aspect and when you get dominated the way you did, because at this point, it looks like you're about to retire. And I'm just saying that's what it looks like in my opinion, because you're leaving your coach out there naked for him to answer all these questions that you should be answering. And I just felt that was a weak move on Israel. He dumped a whole can of weak sauce on all of us after that fight was done, because in the end, that's what a champion does.
Again, more weak sauce. You're just dumping that vat of weak sauce.
So with what I just explained, and with the landscape of the middleweight division, and with the future matchups that are coming and the future matchups that are potentially happening, there is a true scenario and a true case where Israel Adesanya will never get his belt back.